No, I mate.
No, then here he is.
How's it going? Sorry about that.
It's all right.
How you getting on?
I'm all right, mate. It's been a while.
I know, yeah. Like a long time.
Too long. Are you in Manchester now then?
Yeah, yeah. Moved here about 5 years ago now, which is mad.
Yeah. Harry, when was the last time we were hanging out? It's
I
insane.
don't
Like,
think I don't think I ever saw you when I lived in London, did I? You in Brighton? You've been in Brighton for ages.
yeah. I'm in Worthing now, next to Brighton. But yeah, I've kind of once I've moved down to the south coast, that was me.
Yeah, fair play, mate.
I've often thought about it a lot in terms of if I was going to ever do the leap to London, I I could have I should have done that a long time ago. Do you know, like just after finishing uni, I should have then leaped to London, maybe and just done a few years and what have you, but I didn't. So, we've got house and kid now. It's
Oh, really?
you you just can't do it now. Do you know what I mean? Unless you win the fucking lottery or something. It'd be
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure
be insane
Brighton's pretty
moving to
good then.
London now because you'd just be having to give up so much to like live in a fucking one bed studio flat or something. It's like no thanks.
Yeah, yeah. And do you need to really? You're only about an hour away on the train, aren't you?
Yeah, it's about my commute's like an hour and a half. That's
Oh,
where
okay.
it's slightly further along, but I've been doing it now for what, nearly 20 years. You know,
Yeah.
you're just used to it. Well, I don't have to go in every day. I'm only in three days a week, like on average, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
these post-COVID times and a bit of hybrid working kind of makes it all a bit more plausible for, people commuting and stuff.
Yeah, it definitely sorted me out. That was positive. I think I was in every day before
I
COVID,
was,
and now
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
1 day a week. So it's like it's just totally changed it. It says. I mean, obviously a lot of negatives with COVID, but yeah,
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you were lucky enough to not get on the sharp end of it, then you know, there's some positives that came out of it, definitely.
yeah. It's funny. I was listening to Talk Sport this morning. Bit of a weird segue, but there's people on there like hammering people working from home, saying it's not right and stuff. It's just like quality of life so much better though. I suppose if you're a business owner, you might think differently. I don't know, but
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's the I don't know when you're applying broad strokes to everything. Like there is no one thing that fits all, is there? But if um if working from home works for you and the business, then get on with it. Like, or if you can't, if you have to go in, then you have to go in, don't you? It just depends what industry and job that you're doing. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I do think if you're, in that kind of tech media world, let's say, let's be that broad, shall we? Um, which was generally just people in an office on emails or on the phone. There's an argument where you don't have to be in the same place in an office to do that when you can do that at home if it does give you that flexibility. The other side of that is I wouldn't like to be working from home like all the time. I think I'd go nuts.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
It's too much for me. I think there is a value in that face-to-face contact with people. Um, so it's just about getting that balance in it. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
no complaints to me. For me.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you work in the music industry, but I guess we'll dig into that in a bit. But I suppose you're taking it back and how we know each other. I mean, both from Hull, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, it's about 20 years ago, isn't it? You were playing gigs with the Applewhites. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, indeed. It's been weird this, like knowing that I've got this chat coming up with you, it's probably the first time that I've properly gone back, and tried to like piece it together in with some kind of timeline. Because you kind of bunch it all into this one big haze and like everything happened and just it's like, all right, yeah, it just happened then. Whereas, yeah, actually it was like at the very start of the noughties, so 2000, I was 16.
Right.
Even that, this like I was figuring that out this morning, was like, okay, right, yeah, so 16, right. I think I just started like getting into music in terms of learning guitar and bands around, and I also like trying to learn Wonderwall and like some Stereophonics tracks, and all the kind of the really easy ones that everyone kind of does. Um, so then you kind of propel it by a couple of years. Most of that noughties was kind of in my prime of like going out, getting into bands. So it's kind of lucky, really. And I
Mm.
think the tracks that I sent you are mostly from that early period because that's where I
Yeah.
got the most vivid kind of when these tracks were coming out, what I was doing, what position, like what was happening around that when I first heard this track or got obsessed with it. It's been quite a nice, like, cathartic exercise.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
mean, you guys obviously a bit older than me, and you were like my gateway into all this music, and come to see you play.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this is, I don't know, I just remember thinking this is what I want to get into. Um,
I thinking back, I mean, and Ryan, who's in the band, he's got some old recordings. He's kept some of this stuff, and now and then he'll just like send it over on WhatsApp or whatever. And listening back at the time, you think you're like, you're pretty good at the time. And then listening back like 25 years later, I'm like, oh my goodness me, like how could what were we thinking? But
nah, you had some good songs, I think. You're
I,
definitely good for like, you're a lot better than the majority of those whole bands, I reckon.
I mean, I don't know, but all I do know is like we had such a good time.
Yeah, yeah,
And I look back on that whole period with such fond memories. Like it was so fun. It was probably one of the the biggest, most fun periods of my life. When you kind of like you try and break it up, like those, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, we had such a laugh. And it was
yeah, yeah.
and that whole scene there as well, before whatever it is now, it was very early days. The Sesh, like I remember, Matt Page, Mac, he put us on a lot. So massive kind of shout out to him. Do you remember Dean Shakespeare?
Yeah, yeah, he put my band on a couple of times, yeah.
Yeah, Under the Influence, I think was his promotions company then. I don't know if it still is now, but a lot of the bands that we supported, of which some I've put in this track list, that was down to Dean.
Yeah,
Like, I think he gave us our first kind of support slots of like bands that were signed, which was
right.
like, oh my God, we're supporting like the Ordinary Boys and the Subways. And these were bands that you were watching the videos on MTV2, which
Yeah, yeah.
which again was another thing. Like that for me, that was on all the time, and so many bands and videos that you just see on MTV2. That was your kind of main thing. Like YouTube was probably around then, but it wasn't like it is now.
Hmm.
I think back in the day, an NME was worth something then. Like we all religiously read NME because that is where you found out about new music, or it was Zane Lowe on MTV2. I'm trying to think. Steve Lamack, maybe a little bit on Radio One and stuff, but it was quite. You only had a few things and a few trusted things that you'd go to find out about new music.
Yeah.
People like Dean was like one of only a few people that were bringing in these bands into the city to play. So we were like, oh wow, when we got a support slot, you almost like that's your next step up, from playing normal pub gigs and doing your own thing, and which is obviously important and stuff, but you get your fair shot at supporting a band that are signed, that are on tour, that are you're seeing on MTV2, you're reading about in the NME magazine and stuff. And The Fly was another one. Do you remember The Fly?
Yeah, yeah, you should get out of Delphi, yeah.
Yeah, that was another one that is similar and stuff. But yeah, these bands were in these things, and then they were coming to our city, and playing Adelphi or God, I'm trying to think what else was knocking around then.
You know what, I remember seeing it at the White Room once. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did he spot Subways? Was that at uni? I think I went to that as well.
No, I think the Subways was Adelphi.
Ah, was it? Okay.
I think Ordinary Boys and the Subways was Adelphi. Who did we support? Oh yeah, I think the uni thing came through Ted,
Right.
who
Was he a manager for a bit?
he was, yeah. So Dave Robinson, aka Ted, um, he was another one who brought I think, oh man, this is making me think. We were in Old Town and Ted rocked up, and I think he worked for a company called 10 Feet Tall based out of Middlesbrough. And they were like Dean, like putting on these club nights and bringing all these bands through. And they wanted to come to Hull, and Ted was just like out and about in Hull, trying to get a sense of like where bands hang out and what's kind of going on. And we bumped into him. I think it was at the jazz bar
Oh yeah, yeah.
in Old Town. And I think that was because we was going from there to that other night that I think Mark did. He tried briefly in Old Town, like this. I can't remember if he called it the Sesh or the Sesh 2 or something. Anyway, there was this other night that was on like a Thursday maybe or something, and we were going there, and we was like met Ted and said, "Oh, you want to come along to this because there'll be other bands and stuff." And then all of a sudden, then Sweet and Sour came into Hull, and they started doing that night at the Welly.
Yeah, yeah.
That was where I saw bands like Kasabian. That was on their first album.
The Block Party players, oh Willie.
Block Party played. I remember seeing them there. Oh man, there was quite a few that they brought.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just kind of ramped things up in Hull, and all of a sudden it was like, this is class. Between like, what we're doing on the local scene at the Sesh, and then what 10 Feet Tall are bringing in and Dean's bringing in. It was like just all these cool bands that were coming in. And we were lucky that we were playing in a band at that time that, we were trying our best, but we were trying to get on these support slots.
Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of just got from there. Then it peaked probably with when we supported Arctic Monkeys, when Ted moved the night from Welly over to Silhouettes, and I started working for him then as well, and doing a bit of DJing and setting up the club. And again, I just wanted to be involved in music, so I was like, any job going that I could do that was loosely associated with being in a band, promoting gigs or whatever. So I used to help him out, and then obviously this band that everyone had heard that was yeah off the charts with in terms of buzz and hype. And I managed to convince him to put us on first.
Yes. Good night, that.
Oh mate, it was
£6, I think it was.
It was yeah. And do you remember when like you'd pay whatever it was, and you'd get a couple of free drinks tokens as well?
Yeah, something mental, yeah.
It was like, I mean, God, we could talk about the price of beer till but yeah, but I think for me, because the lads carried on after I left to go down south for a bit, but that was the peak of like being in the band that we had going on in Hull. And I think I don't know if we flipped it then, if it was still the Applewhites or if it was, because then we had a bit of time off and then changed the bass player and came back as the Cherry Club Cartel. But anyway, again, like fuzzy memory, but that gig was the best. I mean, it was sold out, 450, maybe 500 people. Ted managed to cram into Silhouettes.
Yeah.
And we must have gone on to like nearly full capacity as well. It was just absolutely bonkers. And then when the Monkeys went on, it just
yeah, so good, yeah.
So good. And then, we all knew what happened to the Monkeys. They just went on and on and on and on. And
yeah. I remember asking Big Tom about that, obviously guitarist in the band. And he was like, "Oh, you said I just remember him getting to smoking mental amounts of weed backstage or something." Which is quite funny. So let's strike is that type of band these days, but yeah. Guess we're all young ones. Suppose you're in the music industry, so yeah, you might want to comment on that. I don't know.
Mate, we've all got a history and we've all done
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think
I mean, given what was going around at that time, it's probably very tame.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's funny as well, like the music, I mean, it's like most industries, it's not as rife as what I hear it used to be. The 80s and 90s, some of the stories you get told, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, it was, I mean, yeah, Hull then just felt like it was absolutely buzzing. And I don't know what it's like now because I only go back to visit family now and then. But that kind of scene, and there was enough places to play. And also the other thing that I moved out when I was 2020, I think. I moved that house. I was paying like 130 quid a month rent.
Yeah, it's insane, isn't it?
You know what I mean? It's like that's peanuts. Like you could easily survive on just a little crappy part-time job, pay your rent, and somehow we managed to find enough money to go out 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah, yeah. There was
Yeah,
literally a night every night, wasn't there?
yeah. Like through the early noughties, that's what I mean. You could easily go out 4 or 5 times a night, and it was buzzing. Like people were out.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like that kind of thing of that period of like the music and the bands, and you could make a go of it and
Mm.
scratch enough to actually go out and have a good time and a laugh. And we certainly did that.
Yeah, yeah. And I know you got out of town a bit, and I remember Tom telling me like about a manager being interested. Like how far did he get in that in terms of, signing that elusive deal or whatever?
I mean, um, if it's who I think he means, it didn't really get that far.
Okay.
I think like they got us down to a gig in London, and it was a bit shambolic, and we stayed at our house and she had loads of cats and it just stank. Remember that as well. Do you know? I mean, we were just like this. I don't know. Just something felt off about the whole thing. Do you know? Like,
Okay, right.
so it was a bit, you know. Um,
Because you were
but
there at the right time, were it like the early part of it when there was a genuine chance of, or like there's a lot of interest in signing bands at that point, or did it not feel like that to you?
I don't know because on hindsight, knowing what I know now, you'd do things a lot differently. But at the time when you've got no idea how the industry works, you're just making it up. Like
Mm.
you're trying to take cues off what you see other bands doing. Like they're like the Paddingtons. They were obviously around when we were, and they got signed. They got a manager. They went on tour, and it was like trying to work out how they did that because in Hull, and I think it still suffers from it now. There isn't enough of the wider industry all there that are also then taking an interest in the local scene that people know what and when and how you get a manager, like what is the right time and why would you do that, and the same with a booking agent and what do they do and when do you need them and when do they come on. And then like I think you've got that there's that dance distributor there that I think seems to doing quite well. I can't remember what it's called now. Something Wax. It's,
Okay, I'm not sure.
it's based in Hull.
All
There's
right.
there's some distribution company there, which I think they're doing quite well. But that's like there was no labels, even like tiny indie ones that I knew about, or like there was really kind of coming onto the scene and like even if just helping bands get the first records and that, it just didn't really exist.
Yeah,
So,
that's true. Isn't it? Like, there's only really like the Sesh compilation. That was about it, wasn't
yeah, exactly that. And like didn't really mean anything in like in outside of Hull.
it? Yeah.
But it was really hard to kind of know what to do. And so like all we did was like, well, we need to play outside of Hull then because there's nothing going on in Hull when you get to a certain level and you've got a following and you want to break kind of like there's no one there to go, right, you should be doing this, speak to this person, or you need to work on this, really kind of focus on this first and
Mm.
give people a bit of a roadmap. So we were just like, we'll go play Leeds, we'll go play London, we'll go play Liverpool, Sheffield, like wherever, just to get us out to try and then because we were just thinking like, oh well, maybe someone will see us.
Yeah.
Like it's that really old school kind of thing of like that, yes, of course that happens, but it's like it's a drop in the ocean, really.
Mm. So what
And
advice, given your knowledge now, then what advice would you give the Applewhites back in the day?
to rehearse more, to take it a lot more seriously for a start. Like, we thank God my mum and dad, like, so when I was living at home, didn't seem to mind us racing in the garage at all hours. But I mean, we didn't take it as seriously as what we probably should do in terms of getting good enough as a band and tight as a unit. I think like we did a bit of that, but then we also really liked kind of just going out and having a laugh and the social side of being in a band, which is nothing wrong with that. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's part of the moment, but there's that, and then there's really I think these days because you've got social media, you can really kind of focus in on building your audience.
Hmm.
It's before then we didn't even have we had MySpace towards the end. Like at the beginning of when we first started, you weren't on the internet. You weren't kind of speaking of the only way to communicate to people was to get them down to gigs or like old school flyering and putting posters up and stuff like that. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, my advice now would be like you'd really hone in on that and building up your audience, getting them, and then you'd probably self-release. You'd probably self-release your first few EPs, which you can do easily now, can't you, through whatever distributor, and put it
Hmm.
up, and then you start to build up a following because I think these days you still go on gut when you want to sign the new band. You still got to like feel it and get a reaction to it, but then you're also then going, what are they up to? Like, what's their social media following like? Have they got a manager behind them? Is there an agent? You're trying to kind of like get a broader sense of the picture, or are you taking them on literally from zero, which is fine if you're up for that.
Hmm.
It's just kind of you get a bigger sense really. You can kind of look into people quite easily as well. If you sent me a track and I checked out a band, instantly you just go, the track's up on Spotify. Okay, great. How many listens has it had? Then
Yeah.
you jump over to Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and you kind of get a sense of like, well, who else likes these guys? Is there a following? It's kind of like it's a bit of it's a bonus and a curse, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw a video on TikTok the other day of I don't know how genuine it was, but this band had been talking to a label, and they like filmed this phone call with the head of the label. He's just like, "Look, we can't take anyone on that doesn't have less. Sorry, we can't take anyone on that has less than 50K followers on on each platform." It's
I
like, all right,
mean, that I'm not aware of that as a policy, but I mean,
it's a bit more nuanced than that, I imagine.
yeah, definitely,
Mm.
you know. But this is why, like, I mean, we wouldn't ever do it, but this is why you get people like the YouTube and TikTok stars get signed because they've built up these tens of thousands, millions of followers on these platforms that then people think, okay, maybe we can leverage that
Yeah,
and go forward. But I still believe in it is about the song. It's about what the band are about. Have they got something going on around them as well? It doesn't
yeah, yeah,
wherever they are. I still kind of feel like if they're really good enough and they're out there, they'll be attracting fans.
yeah.
You know,
No, I know what you mean. I suppose another thing as well was you got to play Leeds and Reading, didn't you? Was that as Cherry Cobb, or did he do it with both bands?
No, that was post me. So I'd already,
Was it? Sorry,
yeah,
right.
I'd left the band. I'd already left the band to go down south to study music, and that was when we'd got Rich in as
I was trying to think who replaced you on drums. It was Turismo Rich, yeah.
Rich Turismo, yeah,
Character.
far better drummer than me. So it was a great move. But I did get to go. Like the lads kindly invited me along, so I jumped in the van and we actually went to both shows with them,
That is.
which was really good. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Because that was a bit of more of a linear path as well, wasn't it? It was like you get on the introducing playlist and then you get pushed forward for Leeds and Reading. I don't know if it's still the same setup now, but
I don't know if it's Leeds and Reading's the same, but I mean the BBC introducing thing is it's a big deal, and they have lots of live festivals and gigs and showcases now. So I think it's definitely still worth it. I can't remember who the guy was. It
Alan Raw on it.
Alan Raw? Is he still the local
Yeah,
guy for Hull?
I think so actually. Yeah, because I've been listening to a band called Serial Chiller from that area, and yeah, they were on that recently. I think it still is Alan Raw. Yeah.
Yeah, we did a couple. I mean, that was another thing. Like we did a couple of like acoustic sessions. He'd have you on, it plays the track, and you get to talk about if you've got an EP or an album coming up. And yeah, you set it up in Queen, the Queen's Gardens, where the BBC, if it's still there,
Yeah.
that's where it used to be. So that was a fun experience.
Yeah, yeah. Remember some of those acoustic ones? I Need You, good song. Quality stuff. All right, let's get on with your songs then. First one,
Oof.
The Strokes' best song, I'd say. Hard to explain. Would you
I
agree?
mean, yeah. I mean, it's a big favorite for me, and I think for when these guys just broke, it just changed everything. I think for a lot of people, it was one of those. It's just the band for that kind of time. I think everyone was waiting for not just the music, but the whole fashion and
Yeah.
image and swagger of the band. And it's kind of, for me, it set off that whole garage band scene, didn't it? Which seemed to last like way into the mid noughties, I think.
What year did you start Upper Whitestone, do you think?
It would,
Or like start
I
playing
think
together?
it would have been like just after this, I think, because I remember I remember me because I was playing guitar and basically it was me and a load of mates and we didn't have a drummer and I just went, oh, I'll do it then, and that was it. I was like, and I remember trying to learn a load of the Strokes tracks on drums and it taking me ages.
Yeah, I mean the drums on this are
Absolutely ages.
insane, yeah.
And they're not the thing, which they're not that complicated, but I couldn't get the drum kick pattern for some reason. I just couldn't get it for ages. And then one day it just clicked and it was like the best day ever. But yeah, I think it was just after that because I think this was one of like the albums and that really kind of made us think like, hang on, I think we could do this. If the Strokes are doing this type of album and like because it's absolute brilliant and its simplicity is probably one of the things that makes it such a good album. But you think like, oh, I think we could have a go at that. So yeah, I mean, hard to explain as well. What a video! It's got the
Yeah.
all the old it's the 80s Magnum PI stuff. And I remember
Yeah,
seeing
it's like a mix of loads of mad stuff, isn't it?
yeah, and that was another one that you just watch on MTV2, and it just seemed to be on repeat.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, great. Well, here it is. Here's The Strokes with Hard to Explain. And I mean, I remember you guys, like a few of these songs that you've picked, you would play live. Like I
mhm.
think playing covers, I feel like it was a bigger thing back then. Like that's how you'd start. Because when we started, we didn't really do that. But I feel like it's a good way of like grounding yourself. It's like getting through these covers, do you think?
It was, and it was also a way of filling out the set
Yeah, yeah.
because we didn't, we were literally starting from scratch, and we almost started playing live. Like we started playing live way too early in terms of like we just literally. It seemed like we weren't even half. We were half ready, and we were like, "Let's go and do a gig. let's go and put us into that kind of pressure cooker." And doing covers at that time as well, it was that kind of thing of like, well, one, it fills out the set, and also I think we were trying to still get a feel of like what we were trying to do and our sound and stuff. So
Hmm.
you'd throw in covers to then go, well, this is who we want to align with.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we used to do a lot actually, and I kind of whether or not it was true, but I think the couple of these covers we were definitely the first ones to do them as well, which we were trying to be, like you'd literally hear it on MTV2 or something and be like, right, let's quickly work it out, and then you chuck it into the set the next gig just to
Yeah,
try ahead of it. So
yeah, yeah.
because you know what it's like once a track kind of beds in and then everyone starts covering it, it's like everyone gets so bored of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
we
definitely remember Kings of Leon being the case with that. I remember Tom copied me the album and you guys would play Holy Roll and Novocaine live, I think.
Mhm.
So yeah, I remember that. It's good. Um, so then yeah, second song, The Vines. I don't know loads about them to be fair, but
They had this one album, and I think it was around this time, 2002, I think, when it came out. I'd actually gone to Australia for 6 months, just traveling, and I was kind of in between, like leaving uni, leaving college, and then not really knowing what I'm up to. And then I was like, you know what, I'll just go away 6 months. I'll
Yeah,
go to
fair.
Australia. I've got family out there, and I was lucky enough to have a Australian passport. So I was like, yeah, let's just go.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that was my kind of first adventure. And then I remember I think I'd either bought this album before I went, or I might have even bought it when I was out there. And there was the Vines, and do you remember the Datsuns?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I bought that album as well. And I just, whilst I was in Australia, I think I had This Is It, the Vines. I can't remember if the album was self-titled. The Datsuns definitely was. And I just rinsed them. Like that's all I was literally listening to. Of course, the Vines are Australian, and I remember when I'd landed, they had a huge festival out there called the Big Day Out,
Yeah.
and I'd literally missed it by a week.
Oh, God.
I was like so gutted because then I was watching it on the whatever it was out in Australia, all the footage, and I think like I'm pretty sure the Vines played, the Strokes definitely played there.
Wow, yeah.
And there's a few bands, and I was like, I was a week away, and I could have definitely gone down to this festival. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I came back like 6 months. I think I lasted out there, and I was just like buzzing with the bands like the Vines and the Datsuns, and I just rinsed the Strokes and stuff. And I was like, right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
so here's the song. Here's the Vines with Get Free. Then yeah, Kings Leon, the next band. But I mean, you must have got to some great gigs back in the day.
I miss these though. I
Oh, did
actually,
you?
yeah, everyone tells me about how, because I think everyone went to the famous one at Scarborough.
Was it Bridge Spa they played? Yeah.
It might have been Sorry, I think it was Brid Spa. Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't know what I was doing, why I missed that, but I did. And it seemed everyone else went to it, and it was just the best gig ever. Um, but yeah, they were another band that kind of, even though they were more like Credence, they're like the garage Credence Clearwater.
Hmm.
If you know who that band is. But my dad was massively into that band, so I kind of grew up listening to them. And then these guys came along, and they were kind of like the Strokes, kind of inspired. It's like, very cool, but more kind of 70s vintage kind of cool.
Yeah.
But again, like Caleb's like voice and just the energy on that first record. I mean, I think 2 records in, they were kind of done really, and it's just stadium rock now. I think they've lost whatever the magic they had, in my personal opinion. But this first album again was just electric.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's brilliant. Also, here it is. Here's Kings of Leon with Red Morning Light. And then nice segue, another band that played Bridge Spa, the White Stripes. Did he get to that one?
Nope.
Fair play.
I don't
But
think I don't think I ever got to see the White Stripes actually. I've seen Jack playing a few of his solo. I think I've seen him solo, and I think I've seen the Dead Weather.
his solo gigs are mad out. They went to one at Hammersmith. The
Mm.
setup so it's crazy. I had to like hand my phone in as well, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
When he stopped people having phones at his gigs for a bit.
Uh,
So you have to put it inside this case and then pick up at the end. But yeah, mad gig.
but this is one of these. This Seven Nation Army track was one that we just saw it once. I mean, it's so easy.
Mm,
We just literally saw it once, and it was in the set for whatever gig we had,
yeah.
and it always went down really well. This one.
No, yeah, obviously massive. I mean, it's had a resurgence, hasn't it? Like, was it after the World Cup one year? Just went massive again, and then it's gone stratospheric now.
Yeah, it's just huge.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here it is anyway. Here's the White Stripes with Seven Nation Army. Then bring it back to British bands, the Future Heads. Did you ever see these back in the day?
Yeah, I think I saw these guys a few times, but I can definitely remember seeing them. Do you remember the Faversham? Is that still going
In
in?
Leeds? Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
Because they used to have I can't remember what it was called, but it was a day festival, and I remember going to it, and it was like everyone from Leeds seemed to be there. Like there was, I don't think the Kaiser Chiefs played, but I know some of them were knocking about. I think we might have seen the Cribs. They played, and it was in this kind of, I don't know how you describe it. It's not like a stately home, but it's kind of a little bit like that, but like right in the middle of Leeds.
All right.
We just rocked in, and you'd go from like room to room, and the bands would be set up,
Yes.
and it was class. And yeah, the Future Heads played, and they were just, yeah, I just thought they were class. It was that kind of really spiky kind of post-punk, kind of a bit more intelligent indie, less garage band, but still, you'd see them live, they'd still smash it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, did you feel like, I don't know, there's this thing about like the first half of that era being quite original in terms of bands and bands doing different things to each other before it got a bit derivative?
Yeah, a little bit, because also like then you get a flood of everyone just coming out, don't you, and then sounding like everyone else.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I always felt like the Future Heads were very much like in their own lane.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be loads of people that'll be like, well, actually, I think you'll find they sound like X, Y, and Z. But to me, in that moment, do you know, when you kind of everyone that I was listening to, it was the same as Maximo Park.
Mm.
Again, they were kind of they didn't sound like anything to me. And that first album, oh, was it A Certain Trigger?
Yeah.
I had that on all the time. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I
It was,
remember them playing Silhouettes. We were there for that.
you
But
probably,
them and the Cribs, I think. And I
yes,
think Towers of London.
I was there for Towers of London, man. Oh, what insane, just yeah, bunch they were.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I
Like,
mean, like those, like it was fun to watch, but I never listened to them.
no, yeah.
It was so kind of like Sex Pistols or like Guns N' Roses. You could just literally just pick out the influences so easy.
Yeah,
But
yeah. They're more about like the personality, weren't they? Like they had a TV show and everything, didn't
massively.
they? Okay, well let's play the Future Heads then with Decent Days and Nights. And then the next song, probably one of the best songs to hear on one of the indie nights back in the day, The Walkman. Just like
That
lose
was
your head a bit to this one, I think.
that was exactly why I picked it. This was whenever this came on, straight to the dance floor.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was just undeniable. Um I literally remember requesting this in Piper. On the Friday night in Piper, this would be one of the first tracks. I'd immediately go in, request it, and I'd be on the dance floor even if there was no one else on. Like it was like loved it so much.
Yeah, yeah. It's mega.
Massive.
Uh, yeah, so here it is. Here's The Walkman with The Rat. Then the next band must have played in Hull at some point. Ah, Brute. I don't think I ever saw them though.
We supported them at Adelphi,
Ah, right, yes.
and I'd not heard that much about the band before, but I'm assuming Dean probably threw us on with them. But the drummer stood up. It was the first time I'd kind of seen that.
All right.
He had his kit on because I was like, oh, "Do you want to borrow ours or something?" If you're, oh no, that was it. Can I borrow yours? Because we were the support band, and it was like, no, because it's a special spec or whatever. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, And then actually, when you got up and see it, it was weird. It was actually really custom. Everything was like super tall and stuff, and then he'd just somehow be able to stand up and play.
All right. That's
Like,
interesting. Like
wow.
stand-up desk.
Yeah, basically, yes. Yeah, the first time you ever see someone with a stand-up desk, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
It was a similar thing. But yeah, great band and such a track.
Yeah, yeah. I've been spoke to Eddie Argos for the podcast and stuff. I feel like I appreciate them now more than I did when I was young.
Mhm.
I feel like they've got something about them, haven't they? Definitely.
Yeah.
So here it is. Here's Art Brute with Formed a Band. Then the next one, I came to this gig, The Ordinary Boys, when you supported. but I left before they came on with Tom's Nan to get a lift home. Absolute nightmare, because I loved that first album. It's so good.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't do anything apart from Boys Will Be Boys. I think like they peaked on this album for me. It was
Yeah.
such a good album. You know, and this was also like before Preston went in the Big Brother house and, you know, disappeared up his own rectum. Do you know what I mean? I think like he was a brilliant songwriter, an awesome performer. Like the whole band was just. I think this was one of the very early support slots as well. We got, I think, but yeah, it was packed. Like again,
Yeah, I
like
remember it being rammed, yeah.
there was a buzz about it, and it was absolutely rammed. And yeah, this again was just another album that I just seemed to have on all the time, regardless of the fact that we supported him or not. It was just, I thought his lyrics were really witty, and it kind of had a little bit of the jam about it as well. And I used to be a massive jam obsessive.
Yeah, yeah. No,
The
I was
band,
listening to
not Preserve, not the band. I mean,
say that again. I was listening to what's it? How's the weather? Is that week in? No, it's not week in, week out, is it? Um, what is that song called? That's gonna annoy me now. How's the weather? Do you know that song?
that's yeah,
Right.
uh, that's the other one that they did, isn't it?
Yeah,
Not
yeah. I don't know why I've gone on this. Talk. Sorry, obviously, yeah. But yeah, I
yeah.
had that on the other
I
day.
did.
It's a very summer, so the whole album's quite summer, summer about it.
Mm.
But yeah, here it is anyway. Here's the Ordinary Boys with Week In, Week Out. And then the Cribs, I mean, you must definitely saw them and hold. I don't know if you ever played with them, did you?
I think we did. Some kind of whole gig historian would have to actually tell us when and where. But I saw this band so many times. Like you say, like they were in a Hull a lot, weren't they? And I think I'm pretty sure the Paddingtons they would have supported them a few times.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, talk about like a proper northern indie band that just used to tear it up and just didn't seem to care. But
Yeah.
they also had these like just undeniable pop indie hits. And
Mm.
it was another one where if Hey Scenesters come on to it in a club night,
No, definitely, yeah.
you'd just be straight on the dance floor, yeah.
Yeah, it's an absolute staple, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah. So he's like this and Mirror Kisses, wasn't it? They were the
Yeah,
go-to, really.
there's a
Yeah.
few. I had to troll this back. I was like, you trying to kind of think of what the albums were because they all just kind of merge into
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I think
Yeah,
this was the New Fellas.
yeah, yeah. And one of those bands that managed to like navigate their way through quite successfully. Like,
But I always thought they'd be bigger. I
oh,
was like,
really?
no, I just never, yeah, I didn't think they were as big as what they deserved to be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. I do know what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Well, here it is anyway. Here's the Cribs with Hey Scenesters. Yeah, then finishing with band we've talked about, Arctic Monkeys. Um, and one of those. These was one that this song was one of those demos, wasn't it, from back in the day? Because it was just demos at that point when you supported him, wasn't it? But everyone just knew him.
Yeah, thanks to MySpace. I think like they were one of the first bands to really get kind of, like shared online.
Yeah.
I don't think they instigated it too much themselves. This was like fans that were getting in online and then sharing music. It was the kind of like this was the start of that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, the band were obviously creating their own buzz in Sheffield, but then I think that's how it spread so quickly. And like you say, we just had these demos that everyone was just obsessing over. But even
Mm.
then, you knew how good they were. Like his lyrics and the way he delivered them and how tight the band were. It was just, oh my God. And
Yeah.
I've seen them plenty of times since, and I think, especially on that AM tour,
Mm.
I remember seeing them on that and just thinking, my God, like where you've got to now, and then remember seeing you supporting them and silhouettes in Hull.
Yeah, but it's a mad feeling for you actually. Yeah,
It's it's crazy, but like they're one of the bands of our generation that have properly gone global.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Because I think apart from the Strokes, Kings of Leon, probably I think, and the White Stripes, because I think they're probably like globally renowned off that track.
yeah, the
But
Killers, I suppose, but they're just not interesting anymore. Are they had like them and Kings of Leon
yeah,
not particularly interesting.
no, that's what I mean. Whereas the Monkeys seem to be the one that when they're dropping an album, you're paying
Yeah,
attention,
definitely.
whether or
Yeah,
not
yeah.
you like it or not. Like they've taken quite a different direction, haven't they? Which over the last couple of albums, but I still quite dig it.
No, I'm into it definitely. Yeah, I think they're
I
doing what they want to do, which is like makes it more interesting.
100%. I just really hope that I don't know we'll see some kind of return to the AM, rock bangers.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Because I
there was
don't
a
think they could do
quite a
like the
lot. Go on,
first
sorry.
first couple of albums. They couldn't go back to that because their sound is just not. Do you know what I mean? They're not this little teenage band from Sheffield banging it
Yeah, yeah.
out. But you could see them maybe going back to that AM, almost like Sabbath anthem rock. But they've still
Yeah,
got like they still write great tunes.
no, definitely. I think apparently that was the idea with the latest album, but then they just didn't feel right, apparently. So they went back to the piano or whatever. But I do remember buying a ticket for the Silhouettes gig because I went to Chinese Laundry and is Alfie behind the till and Bri was there, Bri Johnson, and he was like, I'm not sure about this band, mate. So a bit all hype. I was like, all right, Bri, fair enough. He must have been at the gig as well, but yeah, you weren't
He
sure.
was. I'm pretty certain he was. That's just classic Bry. I've got one, mate. Well, look, I've got so many. Me and Bry used to be at Piper, and we'd be the ones like on just be me and Bry sometimes dancing like madmen to the Walkman
Hmm.
or whatever. Like 'cause we'd be in there from like 10 or something before it got super busy, and yeah, it'd just be me and him just tearing up the dance floor.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Well, here they are anyway. Here's Arctic Monkeys with A Certain Romance. Um, just interested, you've not put any Libertines-based songs in. Just interested as to why. Bit obvious, or
There was no, not an there was so many that I could have probably listed about 50.
yeah,
I was really trying to trim it down to maybe not just favorite tracks, but tracks that had a some kind of story or
yeah,
connection behind it. Like the Libertines definitely took us and the band by storm. We were definitely like massively into them. I remember seeing them in Birmingham, I think at a show. Tom, Big T, nearly killed us in his mum's Metro.
really.
Yeah, he had to do a U-turn because he'd taken a wrong turn, then tried to did do a U-E, but didn't see this massive lorry coming like right towards us.
Oh hell!
They're all like crammed into his mum's
I
Metro.
remember it was a tiny car, that yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like me and T are like, over 6'3", and we're all crammed in, all screaming like because we literally think we're just gonna get jackknifed. But yeah, no, that was yeah, loads of fun memories. But we didn't. I was going to say like the Libertines.
What year was that? That's interesting. 'Cause I'm always jealous of people who saw them,
It was on
pre.
the first album tour. So when did the
That's
album?
it, yeah.
2003
Three, I think.
was it? Yeah. So yeah, it was around then.
Ah, yes.
But it might have been 2004. Like it could have been a.
Yeah, but still, it's
But yeah, we
that's
yeah,
the time to see him, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
and that was just it was rammed. I remember being at the back and having to like really trying to force your way in to kind of to see him. Thankfully, Pete signed up to that one as well. He actually did.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was great. I just think we didn't have like we didn't support them all. They were just the band that were blowing up, and it was British and it was exciting. And again, like they all wore leather jackets to begin with, and then they had the army jackets. And I remember Ryan had one, and we'd you'd all copy the styles, and everyone was in Converse and ripped jeans, and it was all kind of part of that. But I think the Paddingtons were like the most kind of affinity with the Libertines, I think, because they supported them, didn't they? And they kind of
Yeah, yeah.
they got on board with that, which we did. We just never had that. So
Yeah, I think they got fortunate in that respect, like you say, with getting the direction. I think they got the direction through with like being mates with Pete Doherty, basically. Like, or like getting spotted by them.
I think, well, I mean, and this is how it works.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally how sometimes it works. It's like they were in the right place at the right time, you know, for whatever reason, and then made the most out of it.
Yeah,
I think
definitely, yeah.
props to them. Like they'd certainly, they put in the time and the effort.
Hmm.
Listen to back some of their tracks, and they sound great. Like definitely of that moment and of that scene.
Yeah, yeah, for
And I
sure.
remember they were just on tour all the time. It seemed.
Yeah, they all seemed very committed to it, didn't they? Like there wasn't any like part-time jobs flying about.
No, I think they were. It was band or bust, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, did you see Baby Sham was at Welly? I think that's another one I regret not going to, but I was only about 15.
If I did, I don't remember.
Yeah, fair. I think that was more of a what's it, yo-yo, whatever.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, well, that was And Andy Yo-Yo used to put on a lot of shows as well. It's kind of because at that point, like I was either promoting bands with Ted for Silhouettes, or we was playing with bands in the band, and then you had these other things popping off. Like there was just gigs all the time,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's not. It just felt so exciting to be a part of.
No, definitely, yeah. Strokes at City Hall, another good one.
I was there for that.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that was mega.
Still can't believe they played Hull. It just seems mad. Who's booking that?
And the thing
Insane.
is, as well, has it improved? I don't know if it's improved or not. I think or has it got worse? I know there's a lot of venues that have closed down.
What, Hull?
Yeah,
I mean,
you
they've
know,
got that bonus place now, haven't they, that gets like the bigger acts.
right.
But I'm not sure. I feel like there's a lot of bands kicking around. And the Sesh Festival's big, isn't it?
That's the one thing I regret I've not been to yet. And
I
I've
went to like the early ones, but not recently, yeah.
yeah, well, everyone says the early ones were the better ones, like most things are. But
Yeah.
I think with me being down south for whatever reason, I just didn't. I wasn't ever up in Hull, when it was kicking off.
Yeah, yeah. No, it looks like it's doing all right for itself, to be fair. But let's just talk about what you're doing now then. Like you mentioned you work in the music industry, but what exactly is it?
So I work for Chrysalis Records. I'm the SVP of marketing, which is basically like the head of marketing, basically for the label.
Wow,
Um,
yes.
so yeah, it's been good. I've been there 18 months, I think. Came over from
Okay.
B&G, and then I was at Universal and Warner's before that. So I've been around a few labels.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you even get into like working for music industry?
I went down, so I left Hull to go to Brighton to study music. And it was my kind of just, I needed a ticket out of Hull basically. And like I said before, I really wanted to work in music in some degree. So I went to study music kind of with a focus on drums, which I loved. And it was great to be in Brighton, still is really. It's a great music scene. And then coming out of my degree, you kind of then you're getting a sense of what's next. I was in a load of bands down here and
All
started
right.
started to do a few function bands as well, paid gigs, weddings, birthdays, whatever. Just try and figure out is there a career in this?
Hmm.
But then I'd come late to it. So I was 23, I think, when I started the degree. Obviously you're doing it with some kids who are coming on at 18,
Hmm.
19, 20. And I'm looking around and there's kids like 3, 4, 5 years younger than me, miles better.
Right.
Like absolutely miles better than me. And and they're struggling to get work, and I'm struggling to get work, and you're kind of going like, hang on, this is going to be really hard work to kind of make a career out of it. So I
In terms
started,
of what, like being a session musician, pretty much.
yeah,
Yeah.
being either a session musician, a gigging drummer.
I always thought Big Tom could have done that quite easily. Not easily, but he had a good chance. I thought he was a very talented guitarist, isn't he?
He was, yeah. I often think if he'd have applied himself a bit more.
Mm.
But I mean, you can say that about everyone, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Everyone's had trials, haven't they? Of the old football
that's it.
cliche.
Yeah, I mean, and then the thing is about a lot of this, right? Whether or not you're a musician or you like myself in a label or you work in the live industry or whatever it is, you've got to have that kind of grit
Mm.
and you've got to play the long game and you've got to stick with it because a lot of these things you can't just dip your toe in and then if it doesn't work out, okay. Because it's like it's a roller coaster and you've got to ride it out a little bit and really kind of stick in. But
Yeah.
uh, I started interning basically when I was
Okay.
at uni. I started interning, so there's True Thoughts, which are a local Brighton label. You know, just like clearing up the CD racks and doing post outs and stuff like that. And then I got lucky and got I think I interned at Domino as well. There might have been a few others I can't remember now, but I got lucky and got one at Warner's.
You're just doing a bit of everything then when you're interning.
Yeah,
Is it a good way of seeing like all the different functions?
100%. It's like you've got to do it because there's so many things you can do within a label. You know, there's marketing, sync, A&R, finance, operations. There's all these things, and you have no idea, do you? So you kind of getting stuck in and trying to figure it out, and also just figuring out how that side of the industry works. Because
Mm.
so I started doing that everywhere, and then I got lucky and got in at Warner's, and then so many months in, Warner's offered me a paid marketing assistant's job, and that was kind of it. And then I was in, and then again, I'm still kind of trying to figure it out. I didn't kind of go, I want to work in marketing. It was more just like, do you want to be the marketing assistant? Yes, please.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just, you roll up your sleeves and you get stuck in, and then that's kind of say not looked back, but gone from job to job from there really. And you kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
move up or you switch labels when it's kind of felt right.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds ace. So like you work with a lot of new bands at the minute.
Yeah.
So you work
So
with Bodega, who we've had on
yes,
before,
I
yeah.
noticed you'd already spoke to Ben.
Yeah. Yeah, good guy.
He's great, mate. Yeah. So we've just done the new record by them. Our brand could be your life, which I implore people to check out because it is stunning. Um, yeah, that came out in April. We've also been this year. We've worked with Marika Hackman on her
Right.
new album Big Sigh that came out January. Beautiful album, especially No Caffeine. Really cool track. And then we've got Liz Lawrence. She used to be in part of. She's best friends with the Bombay Bicycle Club lot, and she used to go on tour with them and do a lot of BVs. And she's played on a couple of their tracks, but we've signed her for her new album, which is great. That comes out June the 7th. So definitely check that one out. And then another band, definitely worth a look for everyone, is Everyone Says Hi.
All right. Yeah, yeah. Nick Hodgson.
It's Nick Hodgson's, yeah, band. So ex Kaiser Chiefs.
Great single they brought out, yeah.
Mm.
Brain
Yeah,
freeze.
you heard it, Brain Freeze.
Yeah, I really like it, yeah.
Yeah, it's good. So we just started working with them, and obviously, just that's the first single drop. They're playing The Great Escape later this week as well on Friday. So we're just getting started, but yeah, the album's great. There must be like 5, 6, 7 singles on there.
Ah, brilliant. Because it's a bit of a super group, isn't it, of like noughties indie.
Yeah, they've got some. The rest of the band are made up of ex Kooks, Howling Bells, the Dead 60s. Anyone
Yeah.
remembers them? Um, so yeah, all brilliant players. All been around the block. But doesn't sound like any of those previous bands. I would kind of say.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
it's definitely, yeah. And I think they're playing. They've got 2 shows, Camden and Leeds, coming up next month as well. So we're just getting started, really. It's really exciting. Nick's lovely. He's got loads of good ideas.
Nice
Uh,
one, yeah. It's easy to overlook that he was the brains behind Kaiser Chiefs, wasn't
he was the main singer-songwriter. So I Predict a Riot and Ruby and a few others, like they're big hits. He wrote them,
Yeah,
which no one thinks, no one realizes because he was the drummer at the back.
yeah. I saw
But
one
no,
of his videos saying that a guy in the band actually wrote video games for Lana Del Rey as well,
mm,
which is insane. But so just like out of interest in head of marketing, does that mean? I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about really, but like you'll be given bands. You'd be like, right, you're working with this band now. You got to market them, or are you looking for bands as well?
we look for bands. I mean, my boss, our CEO, Jeremy Lascelles, he's the main A&R kind of person. He signs off on everything that we're going to sign and stuff. But yeah, he will either just bring me some stuff that he's listening to, and he'll be like, "What do you think of this?" And we'll have a discussion. Or likewise, if I get anything, I can send it in and see what he thinks. But he is the main kind of A&R source. He signs what he likes.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great place to work in terms of because we're quite a small label. Everyone gets to kind of pitch in.
Okay, cool.
It's a discussion. It's not like the larger labels that I've previously worked in, where you maybe are a lot more segued, and this is what you concentrate on, and this is what you do, and you'll just be getting given stuff. It's
Mm.
more because we're a smaller label. Everyone kind of gets to pitch in and gets more of a sense and gets to work across kind of different areas, which I really enjoy. Coming from I've been at major labels and stuff. I kind of like the more flexibility around job roles.
Yeah, yeah. And how? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about new music on the podcast and like how bands go about things these days. But like, how does a band market themselves? What advice would you give any new band
Uh,
in terms of marketing? I suppose.
well, there's so much. I mean, unlike when we were in a band, there's so much stuff that you can do by yourself these days. I would I would tell, and also there's so much information out there. Like there's this podcast, there's another 100 podcasts all about the industry, all about you know how to do every aspect of it.
Hmm.
There's and YouTube tutorials which are just insane. Like anything you want to do, regardless if it's music or if it's putting a shelf up or fixing a drawer, you put it into YouTube, you guarantee there'll be 50 videos of people that have gone, this is how you do it. So there's like you can get a sense of how to do things quite easily yourself. And I think you need to commit to doing it to a certain level. Because I think what's so hard now for is people do seem to be expecting a lot more of an artist over a band. Um, there's still instances where you might sign someone off the back of nothing. Of course, that still happens if you really think of it. But you put yourself in such a better position and a bargaining position as well. If you've already established, you've done the recording yourself, you've released EPs, you've built your fan base up, you've maybe started your own kind of online store, merch business, D2C, you're kind of selling stuff and you're almost getting to like you might not be making money, but you might be able to kind of break even on certain things. If you go out and make a lot of t-shirts and stuff, as long as you sell them all and it's not costing you money, but you're showing that you're actually like building a fan base there.
Hmm.
And I think this is what people they can do it so easily now. They just need to kind of commit and not think, you know what, I'm just going to write the songs. Someone's going to find me somehow,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then there'll be teams and teams of people to do it all for me. It's like, it's not really like what it is. I mean, you might get that in some instances for certain pop stars at certain major labels, potentially. But if you're a band these days, you need to prove your worth and get yourself to a stage because likewise as well, this is what managers and agents are looking at. They're like, everyone's trying to weigh up the risk, and it's a
Hmm.
time investment and it's a money investment, and you're kind of going like, I really like these guys, but what other indicators can I see that to balance the risk? And if you're a band that have already gone out there and you can show willingness, like proper DIY bands, you know and we work with artists as well at the moment. I think I'm trying to think back, like Bodega are a great example of that. Proper DIY, used to doing it themselves, roll up the sleeves, get out there and do it. And they also understand who they are, know who they are, what they like, what they're willing to do. And then when you're working with a team like us, we totally respect all that. We're not, I'm certainly not someone who comes in and goes, no, this is my vision for you. You've got to do it like this. It's more about going, okay, tell us about what Bodega are, or what everyone says hi are. What do you stand for? What's your vision for that? And then it's more about us as a team going, okay, to help you enable that vision, we'll support and add in, these certain teams or this creative person, or you kind of like you're trying to put the right team together to then get the most out of the band, and hopefully it all clicks.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So that's
very
what,
simple for
yeah.
me to say this. It's quite harder to do it in practice. Yeah.
No, obviously, yeah. And like obviously the money aspect has been talked about, like what is the main way labels make money now? Because obviously record sales are not what they were. Is it streaming?
It depends. It all depends what's in the deal.
Right.
It's harder than ever to make money back from album sales.
Mm.
Still money there though in it, but you look at the charts for argument's sake, and unless you've done, I don't know, 5,000 physical sales, forget about being in the top 20, because all the top streamers now, your Taylor Swifts, The Weeknd, that are just these streaming juggernauts.
Just constantly there, yeah.
They're just constantly there, and it just pushes everyone else down. So it's harder to get that visibility in the charts, and you kind of wanted that as well because it helps you further on in the campaign to go like, this record got top 10. Oh, okay, that used to mean something. It's really hard for that to mean anything anymore because the top 20 are just Fleetwood Mac and
Yeah.
Elton John best of, and do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
they're constantly streaming and streaming and streaming. So to try and get, it depends what the type of artist that you're trying. But if you're trying to break a band, new signing, break a band, you're trying to get them into these top 20, top 10, to then
Yeah.
show like, look, we can sell records. It's really tough, but I think it's that thing of being realistic. The budgets as well. It depends how much you're marketing. What you're going to spend on marketing as well. You've got to try and balance that because you've got to recoup from the label side,
Yeah.
but also you've got to do enough to then give the record enough of a chance that it's going to then hopefully stick and then continue.
Yeah, yeah. And like
But
where do you
I
go on,
still
sorry.
think I still think people buy records.
Yeah. If you're really into a band, you'll buy it.
Yeah, but I just think the mix of it is different now as well. You got to understand, like, a lot of people stream because that's the way you might discover it on your release radar, or you might have your chosen playlists or whatever. New tracks go in, you then get turned on to a new band, new track or whatever. Then hopefully, like, there might be another couple of tracks go in as well, and then you're going, okay, right, I'm really good. Now at that point when the album comes out or they're playing live, I've heard a few tracks, I've streamed them relentlessly. Hopefully at that point, that's when you're then priming them to go come to the live show.
Yeah.
Then obviously if you walk away and you're like, they were amazing live, I'm listening to them a lot. It's trying to, like, not to get too marketing bullshitty with you, but you're trying to bring them down the funnel basically
Yeah, yeah.
to that kind of fan who's willing then to spend a bit of money to buy an album, to buy a vinyl.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. But at the top of that funnel, when you're just kind of, it's new band, new awareness, this is where streaming's really good. This is where TikTok kind of plays a role in that as well, in that kind of discovery of the band. And then through your campaign of whatever you're doing, your various activations, you're trying to then bring people in and figure out who are the actual fans then who are going to buy an album. Whereas
Yeah.
when we were out, you'd be straight in maybe after, I don't know, reading a review in NME of like this really cool band. You'd go to HMV and
And
buy the
buy it.
album.
Yeah.
Whereas now people are like, hang on, I don't need to be so. You
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
a bit of convincing first.
You must get so much data about demographics and everything as well.
Yeah, but also that's another thing is you can drown in it.
Yeah, exactly. I was just thinking that. Is it
It's
really
trying to
relevant? I don't
figure
know.
out. It's trying to take that and then come away with some like meaningful insight from it,
Yeah.
which you can then go and use, but not get too kind of
It's not
wrapped.
like normal marketing, is it? It's not like you don't drill down a demographic. It's like, well, it's music. Anyone can like it, but
Well, it depends. I mean, it really depends how granular you want to get, and you can get very granular sometimes.
yeah.
And sometimes there might be a reason for that. If you want to go ultra targeted on a certain region, for argument's sake, or if you really want to kind of go, look, what is what's the male, female, and the age range,
Mm.
who's really kind of into this band, you can go right to that kind of point because then you might go, okay, if it's female biased and the 20 to 25 years of age, you're like, okay, well, what does that tell me from a kind of the creative that this demographic and age range are likely to respond to?
Yeah.
Because you can, you take that away from it, and so then your advertising that you might do, or I don't know, video that you might shoot, or your graphics or anything like that, you might then go, okay, is this right for that demographic, or like, or even where you spend your money? Like, where are these people mostly hanging out at? Is it TikTok? Is it Snapchat? Is it, Discord? Like, wherever. Like, you can kind of then go, okay, hang on, we're spending an absolute fortune on Facebook. And actually, we know that Facebook's now becoming more of an older audience.
Mm.
Because actually, the data is telling us our fan base are under 20. So we're probably not even hitting our main fan base online. So
Yeah.
you take away stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
agree. It's a bit like you've got to balance it out. Otherwise, I feel you just become a little bit robotic about it all. And it's that thing of like you lose that essence of it's music. It invokes a feeling and a reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
No, it's interesting. And got to ask you where you stand on like, the argument that people are not getting paid enough from streaming.
people. I mean, it's it's the narrative around streaming that needs to change. This whole thing of like no one's earning any money off streaming. I, it's just not true. It's like there's a lot. It's just the certain artists who have a certain amount of fans are getting the lion's share because those fans are going onto that platform and consuming their music.
Hmm.
I think like there seems to be a bit of a narrative around just because you upload a track up to a DSP that you deserve to be able to earn a living. It's just a little bit like this whole thing of it. Your music is kind of your product, and it's kind of like a trying to think of the words. It's a demand driven thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just if I set up my stall and I'm selling my product and no one wants to buy it, well then I need to do something about that.
Supply and demand. Um,
Exactly. Like, don't get me wrong. Like the DSPs do not, the split and the royalty is not enough. That needs to improve. But there seems to be this like big thing going on, which I just think, of course, Taylor Swift's going to earn an absolute fortune on Spotify because everyone's going on to Spotify to stream Taylor Swift.
yeah. So
You
was it
can't
the bloke from Gomez is trying to change the model of it, I think, to pay per play or something.
Mhm.
So what is it at the minute? It's just like a drip down effect. I don't really know fully how it works.
Well, it's down to market share as well. I don't know the full streaming economics to be able to kind of
Yeah.
give you a definitive answer. It's definitely, I agree that, conversations are being had and rights holders need to get paid more,
Right.
but which I think that's all agreed. I think they're earning way too much money. And the same with TikTok and this whole universal thing. I think that was the right stand to make because the amount of views and all the tracks that everyone puts up onto TikTok, like people are not getting paid what they should do, given
Yeah.
what TikTok are making out of it. Like it's definitely broken.
Yeah, fair play. And then just a quick one on ticket prices. Like someone like Blair charging 100 quid. Do you think that's justified?
I mean,
I suppose people are going to pay it, but
and again, it's a complicated one, isn't it? It's kind of I really didn't agree with the whole secondary ticket marketing thing, which was just absolute pirates buying up all the tickets and then ramping up the prices for everyone that couldn't get hold of a ticket.
what was that like via Gogo or something?
Yeah, there was that whole thing, and it's still going on, which I completely don't agree with. But it's so hard to police. But like we absolutely need to. In terms of a ticket price, I mean, yeah, we used to go to gigs and pay £6.
Yeah, yeah. And I
But
suppose at that level, at the beginning level, it's still reasonable prices.
it depends what it is. I mean, for that £100, was that what was that? Was
That
that
was
just
Wembley, was it? Yeah.
was that a normal ticket? It's like, was that a
I
VIP
think
ticket?
so, yeah.
You're getting, if that's a normal ticket, then that does sound a bit rich.
I mean, even Liam Gallagher on his latest tour he charged 75 quid to see him and John Squire at like, is it King Tut's in Glasgow?
Really?
Yeah, it seems mental. They're just playing that new album, like 12 songs or whatever. It's like a bit of a money grab in it. I don't know.
It's a tough one, but again, it's like you're always going to be. You don't have to pay it.
Yeah, yeah. But even I think I paid what 70 quid for Arctic Monkey, 60 quid.
Yeah. And also, I mean, the way that everything is at the moment, everything's costing an absolute fortune, and everything's literally going up. I think
Yeah,
we can't be far off the normal £10 pint, which I just can't believe we're almost,
yeah. Yeah. Those
like,
double pinters cost about 18 quid or something. Yeah.
it's just like we're yeah, yeah, exactly. We're constantly staring down £7 something for a pint. You're like, it's got
Yeah,
to be a year away from this. The regular will be £10 for a pint. And I remember like we used to go out and we'd be paying a quid or like
yeah.
£1.50 or something at the most.
Those bottles of Carling.
This is what I mean, but this is how we used to be able to go out 4 times a week because going out didn't cost you a fortune. Whereas if it's, if we're looking at 7, 8, 9, £10 a pint now, like
Yeah, yeah.
you can't go out for less than £100.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you've got a taxi and maybe a takeaway or whatever, it's like
Yeah.
you just can't do it.
Do you think? Sorry, I'm sure I've keeping you for this long, mate. But um, yeah. Do you think in terms of new bands as well? Do you think because like Life, the Neat from Hollow turned into Life.
I do. I know Stu Baxter very well.
Ah, okay, because I mean they had to go for years and years before they got to a point where it was like financially sustainable. Do you think bands have to be a lot more committed now to make it work?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to the thing of like getting into it for the right reasons and then sticking with it. But then just trying to educate yourself and be smart on the financials of it. Like how much a tour costs, which is a fortune these days. But then like how then can you help balance that tour? Well, you can sell merch. You can
Mm.
sell your albums, you can try and make the money back that way. Like Life are a great example because I know Stu quite well of like, doing it as cheaply as possible. Like Stu's a videographer, an artwork designer, photographer, and I think a couple of other bands are quite, very kind of creative in that sense. So they
Mm.
could do a lot of it themselves. And yeah, you're just playing that long game, which
Yeah,
is
like suppose like the way bands would hammer gigs back in the day, you have to be a lot more selective, maybe. Do you think about what you're doing and what gigs you're playing?
I think so. I mean, if it's a local gig and you can all get down there relatively easy and it doesn't cost you a lot, then you know, I remember like we do gigs instead of rehearsals sometimes. Like we're doing that many gigs.
Yeah,
Um, but again, it's like everything. It's like the longer you do it as well, the older you get. Like say when you're in your late teens, early 20s, you haven't got you're not really doing anything else, are you? You're just kind of knocking about
mm.
with your mates. But once you get a bit older, and then the commitments start to come in, this is where you need to be a bit more sparing. And then if you want to go out of town, that's when it costs money, you know, in fuel or whatever. So I think that's where you've got to really be smart about it. But this is where I think people can use all the free tools that are available to them. And you don't have to, I mean, you don't have to gig out of town like you used to be able to, because you can be building a fan base by, you know, maybe you could do a couple of live videos, you know, the band playing live and stuff, and then you can chop them up, put them on content on your YouTube channel, and you know, you chop them up for TikTok and shorts and the endless amount of short form content that we've got to do these days. It's like there's ways of keeping things going without having to be on the road all the time.
Yeah, there's a lot of admin, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely tons.
Then I suppose one last one then, like a big point of the podcast was to like assess, you know, look back at this era of the noughties and try and work out if there's still the same amount of good bands now as there ever was. New bands.
I don't know. I'm looking back, and I mean, nostalgia is you're always going to think that your era was the best.
Yeah.
And I'm old enough as well now to kind of, you know, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm that guy. When, like, you know, your parents or whoever would be like, oh no, back in my day, they'd reel off all their favorite bands, and now I'm literally sat here doing the same. Um, there probably is. If you asked a 18, 19, 20-year-old, he'll probably be able to reel them off. I don't think at the moment there's the movement that we had in the early noughties. I think we're waiting for that at the moment. There's still load of like great bands and music out there, but to me, it seems a little bit more like dispersed. Like, and you know, this is maybe another thing with streaming is because you don't it doesn't seem as tribal as what it used to be. Like if you were into indie music or if you was into goth or rock or whatever, you know, like back in the day, you'd be able to tell from looking at someone.
Yeah,
Like, "Oh, right,
yeah.
you know, like clearly dressed up like the Strokes or the Libertines or Kings of Leon or whatever. You'd just be able to clock someone and be like, okay, all right, that person's into similar music to me.
Mm.
And I just don't think these days it's you can do that, you know,
Yeah.
anyway as much as what you'd be able to, because people are into so much different types of music and people dress literally however they want. I just think it's just got a lot less obvious. And maybe then it makes getting these kind of scenes and moments really, really hard to kind of hone in, because you know, you look at the charts or you look at what goes into New Music Friday on Spotify or New Music Daily on Apple or whatever it is, and there's all sorts of tracks. It's bouncing all over from like pop and hip hop,
Yeah.
rock, indie. Do you know what I mean? It's just so kind of
It's the
every
same with like festival lineups, isn't it? Like Leeds and Reading used to be like indie hotbeds, but now it's just all over the shop, really.
yeah. No, that's what I mean, and it's kind of like you say, it's a good and a bad thing depending on what, you know, where you're coming at it. It makes our job when we're trying to come up with who our targets are and where where our audiences are. That's where it becomes a bit tricky, because you're like, well, I don't really know what this type of person is, or like, do they read this magazine? No one reads magazines anymore. Are they, you know, are they online checking out this type of blog, or are they on this platform, or do you know, you're trying to kind of just build up a bit of a,
Yeah, it's like no rhyme or rhythm to what they're doing. Yeah,
you still can pull on certain things, obviously, but yeah, it's just like I remember, you just think back and maybe at the start of the noughties, it was probably a lot easier to then go, okay, you've got these magazines, these radio
yeah,
stations, these TV programs, these festivals. This is where everyone is.
yeah. Job done.
And
One.
now
Yeah,
it's everyone's all over the shop, you know. So that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of makes it exciting and challenging for us in the marketing team to, you know, and then it's up to us to like try and create stuff. You know, you can come up with your own ideas, or you launch something with the band that maybe is a way of bringing people together and stuff.
Yeah, but the scope's so massive for marketing now. You just like think of any idea that you could probably do on TikTok or something.
Well, that's what makes it. That's what challenges, isn't it? You know, this is what everyone's kind of up against.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, mate. What is it also is like there's been an argument of like losing a bit of mystery with, the fact that the idea that you've just bands have got to post content all the time.
Mhm.
Is there a case of doing too much at some point, do you think?
Probably. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone's different as well in terms of we work with some artists that get it, that feel comfortable, being online, and we work with others that really don't.
Yeah, I can imagine,
And
yeah.
and that's challenging because you want there to be something, but we don't say I'm not an advocate for just constantly posting post. I think what you're doing is you're trying to give people a taste of who the artist is, or a kind of window into what they're about or what the album's about. It's kind of trying to draw people in, and you're trying to raise that intrigue. And if you're not doing that, and if it's just constantly like, well, this is what I had for tea, or look at so some of this is like, well, is that really relevant? I don't know, but
Hmm.
you've got to figure that out. Like, what works for some doesn't work for others.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Okay, mate, I'll let you go, but I found that really interesting, so I appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. Hey, thanks for having me. This is the first time ever I've properly tried to go back through, those memories that have been locked away for 25 years.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, often when I'm doing so, I often think about you guys because, like I say, you were like first band that I'd regularly go see, probably. So,
Mate, we loved it, mate. We appreciated it. And thought, good luck with the podcast. I've been listening to quite a few episodes over the past
cheers,
couple of
mate. Yeah,
months. Brilliant. Really digging it.
nice one. Yeah, hopefully there's some loose ideas of doing a live show in London, so I'll have to let you know when if that ever happens.
Please do,
But
yeah.
just trying to organise exactly what that's going to look like, but should be a good laugh.
Yeah, big time.
All right, cheers, mate. I'll be in touch about when that's going out, but might even get you back on at some point because it's a great insight that we've not really had off from anyone. So,
I hope I haven't revealed too much.
but yeah, spot on, mate.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for asking me.
No worries, mate. Take care. Yeah.
Thanks, Harry. Take care, mate.
See ya.